We call this room the Blue Room. My wife wanted to use this to be her Lego room. Eventually, it became my office. But we've decided that we want to make this room to be our master bedroom. So we want to take the effort to get this room to be in as good shape as we possibly can before we move our bed upstairs. There are several things that we need to look into. There is zero insulation in these dormers. Alright, there's a little bit, but honestly, this thing is either freezing cold or it's smoking hot. The floors are also in terrible shape. If we didn't have a bunch of expensive electrical and tuck pointing work to do on the foundation, we'd probably go and replace the floors. So we figure, hey, we can't make it worse unless we take an axe to it.
First things first, I need to rip out the carpet in this little entry area, but I left the lens cap on so you don't get to see that. After that, it was just getting all of the tack board off and all the staples out of the floor.
I really don't know what I'm going to do about this corner over here. There's clearly a reason why there were carpets in this little entry area. I have no idea what I'm going to do to close up this horrible little gap in the floor. Alright, here we go. HowToSandAFloor.com said to start at an angle to get off the material and then start going with the grain of the wood. I only bought 2 rolls of 24 grit sandpaper. The first one clogged up about halfway through. I wish I'd bought a third. And you can see what happened to the second one as I was getting close to the end.
The sander started smoking when I got into that last corner. I think that's a sign that it's time to take a break from using this one, maybe get onto the edger.
So the edger is absolutely exhausting. You're leaning over, you're holding this really heavy tool, and you've got to keep it moving constantly so you don't dig a hole into the wood. I called it a night after using this tool. My wife is just dying of laughter about my bow-legged moaning and groaning stroll. Next day, just started using higher grits, alternating between the drum sander and the edger. I also didn't buy enough discs for the edge sander. The low grit ones got clogged the worst, but even the higher grit ones got clogged too quickly. I ended up having to pull out my palm sander to try and get the little last bits done. After that, I pulled out the random orbital sander with 80 and 100 grit paper, just trying to smooth things out a little bit. It had been sitting in the living room for 2 days. I should have waited to rent it. I could barely control the thing. I was totally wrestling with it. It didn't come with these thick, puffy pads that are supposed to go in between the sandpaper and the rotating discs. With these pads, though, I wasn't fighting it the whole time, and it actually sanded up some of the floor. Anyway, if you rent one of these things, make sure that it comes with these little pads. HowToSandAFloor.com recommended that I use this product, Woodwise Wood Patch, Maple Ash and Pine Color, for filling the holes and cracks in my floor. The reviews on Amazon were really bad. They were all like 1 star. I'm hoping that's just because people didn't know how to use the product. I'm expecting to extend this wall out a little bit, so I'm going to test the product out right here. If it doesn't work, I'm going to hide it under a 2x4 and a wall.
I don't know if you can see that, but that's pretty white. It's definitely much lighter than the wood. I think maybe what I'll do is mix in some sawdust with that and some extra water, and maybe that'll darken it up a little bit. But I don't know, maybe I won't use it at all.
Nah, let's give this a go, see how it turns out. I mean, what could go wrong, right? I added some sawdust that came out of 100 grit sandpaper and a little bit of extra water to this mix, then followed the technique that Ben Osborne had on HowToSandAFloor.com. Basically, you dump a bunch of this on the floor, and then you work it in with a straight edge, ideally working in a figure 8. I wasn't able to figure out the figure 8. Also, the product got dry pretty quickly, so I'd take whatever I had on the floor, dump it back into the bin, mix it around, and come out with fresh, wetter product. I used the random orbital sander to sand off the white film that was left. I thought it would come off easily, but it didn't. There was a lot of residue left over.
It didn't help that the 6 sandpaper discs I'd bought were already a bit clogged up. On top of that, I was on the last day of the 4-day weekend I had set aside to refinish these floors. I just couldn't get all that white residue off the floor before I needed to return the sander and get back to work on Monday. The filler felt like a mistake. I don't know whether it was the product, or me getting the application technique wrong, or me not sanding the floor smooth enough, or it being pine, or some combination of all of them. Regardless, I'm going to have to go back, re-rent the drum sander, and strip this all out. Flip side of it, I didn't do a very good job with the edger. Those little curves are sanding marks from the edger. So, while I'm not happy about the fact that I'm gonna have to basically resand the floors again to get all this white stuff off, there is the benefit that I know that I didn't do a very good job on the edges, and that rather using a gloss or a semi-gloss, I should try to get as matte as possible so that those blemishes aren't really visible.
1 week later.
I felt pretty demoralized after last weekend, but it's not like I can leave the floors like this. I need to get the job done. I'll take 36 grit, I'll get all of this off with the drum sander, and then I'll go all the way up to 120.
Just look at all that white residue come off.
This feels a whole lot better. You can see the little whitewashy thing here. I mean, take a look at this line in between the freshly sanded wood and the stuff that had that coating. I feel a lot better about this floor. Still got a lot of work to do, but whew.
I didn't bother re-renting the edger. I just got in there with my palm sander and 50 grit discs to get all that white gunk off. After that, I just used the drum sander going across the floor in both directions using 60, 80, 100, and 120 grit paper.
I'm a little bit worried about my work with the edger. So instead of doing a standard, semi-gloss or glossy floor, I'm going with this matte product. It should almost look like the floor looks like right now, so it says. Well, here we go, I guess. The instructions for this is basically, I pour this hardener, all of it, right into here, and this covers 400 to 500 square feet. Well, this is about 150 square feet, maybe 200 at the outset, and I don't want to pay for two of these. These are 134 bucks a pop, so I am going to mix half of it. I figure if it's got this hardening agent, it's not like I can just put the lid back on and it'll last for a day. What do you think?
Not very smooth.
Hey.
I think I prefer if it was a little bit shinier.
Yeah, it really does look just like the floors are unfinished. Alright, well, I got the orbital sander, so we'll just scuff up the matte coat and then put on some semi-gloss.
Oh, this is much better.
Yeah. A couple of little spots that are imperfect, but if you can't spot them, that's always good. Yeah, this one, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I think it's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's still an awful lot to do. I've got to get quarter round back up on the baseboard molding. I've got to turn this entrance area into a usable closet. We need some more electrical outlets. But you know what? Oh, the floors are done. This is my new house in West Seattle. It's a century old, with half a century of deferred maintenance, and a couple of odd decisions by the last homeowner. Subscribe to my channel to catch all the different projects that I undertake to get this place updated.